I'm here with Riki Ott. She is a marine toxicologist from Alaska who survived the Exxon Valdex oil disaster, and she has spent 5 of the past 6 months in the Gulf. She was just there a week ago. She's here in the Bay Area for the Pioneers Conference. And Riki, I was surprised to learn this morning that today is the 6-month anniversary of the BP oil disaster. What's going through your mind today?
It's so not over. I mean, that's when in August when the president said it's over. The people were just like, why? What happened? Why are we being deserted? Dispersants are still being sprayed as of last week, I heard, from the Gulf. In the inland water, they're being used. They're still in the Gulf.
Who's spraying them?
The BP contractors, basically, or subcontractors. It goes way, way, way down to... but the point is that there's oil around, there's dispersant around. People are not sure about their own health. They're having a lot of health problems in the Gulf. Who's going to take care of them? Everybody seems to be backing away from the Gulf. And to me, this was sad in a number of ways, because this was an opportunity for us to say we need to get off oil and coal. I mean, not just a 6-month moratorium, but a forever moratorium. It was an opportunity for the people across the nation to rise and speak as one, like we did in 1969 after Santa Barbara, and say, enough. We can imagine this happening in our backyard, what happened in Santa Barbara. We want better environmental protection. And when the nation spoke with one voice, we got it. I mean, there was a tremendous amount of environmental legislation passed. EPA was created, all because the people spoke with one voice. And that's what could have happened and still might in the Gulf. And I want to speak to why it needs to happen first. And that is that we are running out of a window here of time to really avert this mess that's coming at us, this climate chaos. And what we need is to stop, like other nations are doing, take stock and say, what can we do regionally? How can we decentralize our energy and also make it domestic? We need to own up to what we use. And this isn't about finding coal and doing nuclear. This is about what's going to be good for the future generations. What can they live with, not die from? And so we have the technology on the shelf now. We're just lacking the political will. This is what I saw in the Gulf. In August, when the president said, it's over, and all the president's men said, it's over, Mother Nature's going to take care of it. To me, this was the scariest thing, because it showed that it didn't matter if it was a Republican administration or a Democratic administration. Still, there is no imagination to move us beyond fossil fuels. And that, to me, was the scariest thing. Can we do it? You bet. If the American people rose up and said, we want wind generators, we want solar, we want waste biofuels or tidal power. Every place where we have coal mines now or oil development or tar sands, we want to just shift the energy to a different future and retrain the people in the area. So it's not a job loss, it's a job transition. And we could do this now. Instead of a 6-month moratorium, we could have had a forever moratorium. It's going to take the people speaking with one voice.
Talk a little bit more about that, because we got the EPA, the Clean Water Act, all of that legislation in the 70s was passed by Richard Nixon. So do you think it is the people speaking with one voice, or do you think that it's the fact that the corporations own the government?
The reason, when we get stuff passed, it's because the people speak with one voice. And I'm thinking of the abolitionists, the suffragists, right, and also the environmental movement in the 60s. And 70s. That was all people rising up. And we need that level of awareness now around our energy future. And we need that because our democracy has actually been, sadly, hijacked by these big transnational corporations. And I'm talking about buying our politicians, writing the laws for our politicians, like the healthcare, what I call deform bill, where I'm sure most of the people who signed and voted for that never actually read the whole thing. 2,000 pages, forget it. That's corporate lawyers. So we, the people, need the power of the pen back if we're going to write energy legislation that doesn't have these things that get us nowhere, these energy dead ends like clean coal, nuclear, offshore oil. Forget it. These are all too risky behaviors, either for future generations, for the planet, or for public health right now. One or the other. These are not wise choices. And so for us to take back control of these big corporations, and I'm talking about the corporate personhood issue, the constitutional rights doctrine that the Supreme Court completely made up. This is not people-passed law. This was not the intent of our Constitution, to give mammoth corporations the same inalienable human rights that living, breathing people need. So it's going to get more and more insane the longer we leave the power of the pen in the hands of these corporations. I'm talking about privatizing water. I mean, it's going to get stupider and stupider until we, the people, rise up and say, no, life on the planet comes first, then profit. We have to build our economy in a way that life matters.
Are you surprised that the Obama administration didn't take this opportunity to actually do something? Because when you were on my radio show with Diane Wilson a couple of months ago, you both said this is an opportunity. If this is bad, I mean, you on the show, you said that you were telling people to evacuate the area. It was so bad. Were you surprised that, I mean, nothing was really done?
Okay, surprise doesn't even begin to cover it. I am so disappointed in the Obama administration. And really, it's deeper than the Obama administration. Really, it's the shock factor that it doesn't matter who's president right now. We really have lost the democracy. It's been hijacked by these big corporations. I mean, Obama was our best chance. And the fact that he stumbled and fell shows me that this is it. It's up to us, the people. And I'm not talking about just going in and voting change every 4 years or every other year during the midterm elections. What I'm talking about is people realizing that we're it, looking at your neighbors, having discussions. How are we going to get out of this mess? And starting in your local communities, doing transition towns, reducing the carbon footprint, figuring out, imagining what a future community would look like, even if it's neighborhood by neighborhood, building in the self-resiliency, the farmers markets, where you can get your food, get your water, get your energy more locally. And eventually, if enough neighborhoods do this, then we can start talking about restructuring our whole bigger communities. And then we can link community by community, region by region. This change has got to start from the bottom up, and it's got to be pushed up. And it also starts with educating our youth, our children, not just leaving it for the people who vote. Alec Lohr, just for example, the Brower Youth Award winner, is going to have a Million Miner march on Washington, D.C. on Mother's Day in 2011. And this is about bringing youth who don't have the vote yet and saying, I matter. You, politicians, are making decisions that are not safe for me, let alone the unborn generations yet. And you've got to start imagining a different future for all of us and acting on that now. I mean, and we're talking in the next election cycle, 2 to 4 years. This is the window of time we have left to really affect some meaningful change. Luckily, we don't have to start all the way at the beginning. I've been touring for basically 3 years, kind of on this wild Paula Revere ride, saying, the corporations are coming, the corporations are coming. And I have seen pockets of sanity all across America. Mm-hmm. So it's not like we have to start from scratch. Let's look to see how much of the wheel has already been built. And we can look to a Europe. Europe has done tremendous things that we could be doing here. We have handicapped our own ability as a nation to drive and nourish a new industry that's going to replace this old dinosaur age of fossil fuels. We've handicapped that. I mean, come on, we need to roll up our sleeves as Americans and just tackle this problem.
I'm here with Riki Ott. She's a marine toxicologist from Alaska who's spent 5 of the last 6 months in the Gulf. And in the next section, we'll talk about what's really happening in the Gulf that we might not be hearing about.